Hey guys, the Nanyang Championships are almost upon us. The LAN event is happening in Singapore. This is a list of your talent, a lot of BTS folks, along with Odie, Pixel, Shiver, and the return of Lumi. The dates of the event are October 26th through November 1st, Singapore time, and I'm sure there'll be like a Reddit thread with a survival guide to transfer that into North American or European time or wherever else you may be from. So the format of the tournament is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams split up into two groups of 5. They will play a BO2 round robin, and the winners will go to the upper bracket. The bottom one will be eliminated, and then number 3 and number 4 will be seeded into the losers bracket. So this playoffs is just like a mini TI5, just with less teams. This is the format for TI5, and instead of having 16 teams, you have 8 teams. But it's very similar. First round, best of 1 grand finals, BO5 with no winners advantage. So there were 6 directly invited teams: Team Secret, VP, Fnatic, LGD, CDEC, Vici, and 1 qualified team from each of the regions: EHOME, Liquid, Cloud9, and Mineski. And all these teams will be attending the Frankfurt Major aside from Team Liquid, and that is it. But I actually think Team Liquid is one of the strongest teams at this event, even though they didn't qualify. So going by teams' statistics based off Join Dota, as well as some from Gosu Gamers, as well as what I think of the team and how they participated recently. Keep in mind that Gosu Gamers doesn't actually have Team Liquid on here in a reasonable place because they actually still had some from the International 2014, so they carry some over from the old Team Liquid, whereas Join Dota has them at the number 6 spot. My power rankings for this event are Secret and CDEC are in the top 2. CDEC showing that they can actually play 6.85 very, very well, and their teamwork and chemistry is just much better than any other team that I've seen. Secret recently came off a win at MLG World Finals, as well as placing 2nd at ESL New York. They have a deep array of strategies like Broodmother, Meepo, as well as all this normal stuff. Sometimes they play Chen, and I think the versatility goes a long way into making them a very formidable team. Sometimes you just straight win with the outdraft. I also feel like Puppy knows a lot of the teams very well from all the regions, as opposed to some of the other teams who kind of only play teams for their own region, such as Mineski. So Secret and CDC will be my top 1 and 2, and then after that I think there's a pretty significant jump to the next tier, which is going to be Liquid. Some of you guys may be surprised to see Liquid up here because they didn't even qualify for the majors, and they lost to Monkey Business, who didn't do that well at MLG after the group stage. But I think that Liquid's actually very strong. They have a lot of experienced players, and I think some of their players know the opposing teams very, very well, and they kind of don't fall into the trap of some other teams that I see, which is, not adapting fast enough to the patch. LGD, I think, has a lot of talent, but they didn't perform that well at MLG, but they're still a pretty darn good team, although noticeably worse after Xiao8 is gone. VP is decent. They did end up beating LGD, but I was still going to rate them a little bit lower than them just because I feel like they haven't been playing this patch well at all, whereas LGD, I think, will steadily improve until then. EHOME, I haven't really seen that much of. They've had visa issues in the past, but they did manage to qualify for some tournaments, but just unfortunately haven't been able to attend. We have Vici, who I have 3 question marks next to because I think they've only played 2 series and only 5 games total that we've seen, and that was for the ESL qualifiers. And they did end up losing to EHOME, so I'm going to rate them slightly below, but Vici could easily be like 3rd or 4th, or they could be all the way down here. So I'm going to be a little bit safe than sorry and just kind of put them lower than what I expect. If they perform well in the group stage, I'll bump them up for the playoffs. The SEA region, after casting and watching most of the qualifier games, I think that is the that and NA are the worst regions, so that's why I have these 3 teams on the bottom, because they're from those 2 regions. Mineski, I think, is actually pretty decent though, and has a pretty high ceiling, so they can actually take games from some of these other teams. Cloud9, I think, is better than Fnatic. They had a really poor showing in MLG though, and Fnatic, they have so much talent, but they are just like inexplicably bad. And you know, Winter and I discussed it a lot, and we think they could easily place at the bottom of Frankfurt if they don't get their stuff together really, really quickly. So enough about the power rankings. Next we move on to the Vulcun picks, and generally you want to pick cores, but you're forced to pick some support sometimes, so I decided to split it up into 3 different categories. Your stable picks that you should almost always be looking to get: Fado, We, maybe aggressive. These are players that generally snowball very easily, as well as don't die very often. They're I wouldn't say they're like safe players, but they're very like controlled players, and they don't yellow in too much. On top of that, they're all on very, very good teams, which are much more likely to win than the crappier teams. And some players you'll see that are very overvalued, like Ritsu and Brax, for example, because a lot of the times that they're in the Vulcun leagues, they are paired in the NA qualifiers, and their projection and cost is kind of based on their prior performances, which is mainly in competition that is not too great. So they're overpriced for the amount of competition that they're up against, which I think they are, again, bottom 2 of the 10. Undervalued, Matama Man's actually probably more of a stable than undervalued, but sometimes people overlook them because of other players on their team. I think Misery actually has been a breakout offlaner. Super, the mid player for Team Vici, he is actually super consistent and doesn't die very often, which is kind of what you want in a mid player. And most of the Chinese supports are undervalued just because it seems like the majority of the user base for Vulcun are Western people, because it is an English website. So most of the people that you see chosen are Western supports over Chinese supports, which makes them a little bit cheaper, because I think their algorithm is based on how often they're picked as well. Too expensive. Some of these are players that just die too often, or just don't snowball hard enough given the space, or don't recover very easily. I think some of these that fall into that category: Burning, Siler, Black, Mushi, EE, and then Ritsu and Brex I kind of already explained, because they were paired in NA regions a little bit too much for their past Vulcun games. And again, if you want to join me and other people on Vulcun for the upcoming event, you can go to vulcun.com and sign up for the contest. It hasn't been up yet. And if you haven't signed up yet, you can go to vulcun.com and put in my promo code Merlini Dota and sign up. It doesn't cost you any money to sign up or to play in some of the leagues, although there are some cash ones available with cash in the prize pool. So thank you guys. Again, please visit vulcun.com, VULCUN, and put in the promo code Merlini Dota. I'll be having a lot of fun casting event with this widespread of talent, and then after that will be the Frankfurt Major. So pretty excited. This should be like a kind of a mini TI. So thank you guys. See you soon.